Some of the people who watch my videos ask me, how do you make a full-size template for making a kite skin from a plan that's just a small drawing and a bunch of dimensions? How do you go about that? And this is what you get when you download a plan from the internet. You get a drawing and a bunch of dimensions. This one's got arrows on it and so on. Some of them don't. Some of them are even more simplistic than this. Some of them have instructions that help guide you in making the kite the way the person who designed it wanted it to be. But a plan is really just a guide that you try and duplicate. And in order to do it, you have to draw it out. Now you can draw it on the material you're going to use for the kite skin. Let's say you're going to use polyfilm gift wrap for your kite skin, which is what I often use for mine. Well, I could lay a piece of that out and draw this on it. But if I liked that kite a lot and I wanted to make another one, I'd have to do it all over again. So I don't do that anymore. What I do is I make a template from the plan, and then I just cut around the template to cut out my kite sail. And if I want to make more, I have the template ready to go, and I don't have to redraw from scratch like I do now. So that's one perspective of a plan that I wanted to share with you. And now I'm going to go through what I do and what I think are the important aspects of getting it correct in terms of making the kite fly well. Now, there's only a few dimensions that are really critical to the kite flying well. One of them is the dimension here from wingtip to wingtip. That's very important. The other one, or another one, is the distance either from the nose to this line that goes from wingtip to wingtip, or from the tail up to that line. That dimension or this dimension, either one, is critical. Now, you hope that all plans have these critical dimensions, but you'd be surprised if there are quite a few that don't. So you have to sort of make up your own dimensions that makes it look pretty much like the drawing. But if you follow a plan that has these dimensions, those are really critical points. Another one is the point where the bow intersects with the nose leading edge right here. This distance from the nose to this point is important. And sometimes you don't get that, but what you will get is this dimension, nose to where the bow crosses the spine. That's important. All the other dimensions about the batten placement and so on are not very critical to the flight of the kite normally. You can make lots of variations of these other dimensions, and it won't impact the flight of the kite significantly, for sure. You can also, this shows a trailing edge right here that's straight. Well, you don't have to make it straight if you don't want to. You can make it scalloped so it's, this shape, but most plans use straight lines for the trailing edge of the kite. So what I do is I take the plan and I get a piece of cardboard. This is a repurposed priority mailbox that I cut apart and opened up. And the tools I use are, what you need is you need something that's square. You need a square something. This is a actual square, but you could use a legal pad of paper or a sheet of paper for that matter, if you could do it. The corners here are square, so you could just use that as your guide. But what you need to do, what I'm going to do is show you how I do it. Normally I use these fine tipped Sharpie markers to draw my template before I cut it out. But because of the video, I'm going to use a little bit bigger one, be fatter line. The first thing I do is I figure out how wide the kite is from wingtip to wingtip and how long the spine is. I want my template material to be big enough. So that's what I do. And I use 2 rulers to do that. So this one is 18 3/4 across, and it's 16.5 inches along the spine. So I'm going to draw the spine right here. And I'm not going to draw it to its length. I'm just going to draw a line that'll represent the spine. And I'll mark the dimensions of it later. Now, well, I'm going to put the nose right here. That'll be the nose. Now, from the nose, it says here that you go down 7 7/8 inches. And that's where the line that connects the wingtips is. And here is where we need the square. You need to make this line perpendicular to the spine. And so what I do is I align to the spine one part of my square, whatever you're using, and then I line up the location on the spine that I marked, and I draw a line that's my wingtip line. That's what I call it. So now the distance of the wingtip to wingtip is 18 3/4, so it would be 9 3/8 on either side. So I simply mark that off here and here. Now I measure the spine tail, which is 16.5 right here. So now I can draw my trailing edge from the wingtip to the tail. I just draw a straight line. If I want to change the shape of that line, make it curved, I'll do it later. But the first thing I want to do is get it a straight line so I know where it is. Okay. Now the next part is to locate this area around the nose. And what it says here is that It's 3 3/8 inches from the nose to where the bow crosses the nose leading edge. So what I do here to identify that is to put my square on this spine line again at that distance, at that location that I marked on the spine. Align my square to the spine so it's lined up, and square to the spine, and then I draw a line. Now this is the line where the wingtips, where the bow will meet the nose leading edge. So if the nose leading edge is here, and it tells me that it's 3 3/8 inches this way. So I mark it here, and I mark it here. Now that's where the nose goes. Now to get the rest of it, you can see here, the rest of it is curved. This part here is curved, right from the point where the nose of the nose leading edge hits the bow. From that point on, it's curved. So how do you find that curve? Well, this plan tells me that the length of the bow is 22 inches long. Now, a lot of plans don't tell you that. They just let you figure it out by fitting it to the other dimensions. This happens to tell me. Now, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to show you what to do if there isn't that dimension, and then I'll show you what to do with it if you have it. I just use tape, masking tape, and I put the bow. This is a piece of carbon fiber rod. It's 24 inches long. It's longer than this needs to be. But I bend it in such a way that it fits the points at the wingtips right here, and it intersects the points that I have for my nose leading edge. That's the shape. So then once I have that, I tape one end of that down and then I do the same on the other side. Now, once I have this positioned, in order to get that curved line, I just hold it down and draw along it like this. This is where the bow will go. This is the bow. And it's used to determine the shape of the curve. Now, if I didn't know the length, I would mark the carbon fiber rod at both wingtip points, cut off the excess, and that's that. So that's one way to do it. Another way, if you know the length of the bow, is to use a bow setter. Now, a bow setter is simply a tool that you make either out of cardboard, this one's out of a yardstick, but it has a notch located at the wingtip, and at the other wingtip, it would have a notch as well. This one has lots of notches, so I just fit them in like this. So they line up, and then I would put the end of the rod here, and it would form that shape. And I do the same thing to create the curve. Now, in order to create the hem, the part of the kite skin that folds over this curved part of the bow, I would simply just freehand it. I would use about 3/8 of an inch guide to just freehand it, and then make a line like that, and a line like this, and freehand it here as well. Now, these aren't very accurate, obviously, these flaps, but they don't have to be. Unless you really feel that you must do it, then go ahead. Now, after this is done, I cut out with a razor knife, or a utility knife rather, along the perimeter that I just drew. That's my kite template, and then I just lay my kite sail material flat on my work surface here, put my template on top, press down, cut around it, the sail is made. Well, I hope that helps in getting you off to a good start with your utilization of the many, many North American fighter kite plans that are online.